all college football. I'm your host, Grayson Grundhoefer, and we're going to continue to roll through these Big 12 schedules as they were released last week. And today, let's go ahead and talk about the Oklahoma State Cowboys. The reason I kind of wanted to talk about them second is primarily because they've had just this crazy, tumultuous offseason where they've lost so many players on their roster, really good players as well. Spencer Sanders is gone. It's just a total readjustment. I think this is one of the toughest teams when it comes to, I look at their schedule, I think it's manageable, but I look at their roster and I just don't know what to expect. And I think this kind of level of roster turnover usually does not mean good things. So let's talk about it. Let's look through the schedule. Let's kind of see maybe some of the road falls, some of the kind of areas where they could have some major problems, and maybe some areas where they can make up a little ground. So to start the year off, they got Central Arkansas. They go to Arizona State. They have South Alabama at home, at Iowa State, and then a bye. That's their opening stretch to the season. I know it's pretty much the non-conference, and then you add in that Iowa State game, but I think it's an important start. And the reason I say that is because I think during this stretch, they need to find a way to go 3-1. They need to. And I'm not going to say that they need to make a bowl, but it seems like an area where if they get off to a bad start, it could mean some problems inside the athletic department, could mean some problems for Gundy. Again, it's just one of those situations this offseason where it's like, what happened there? And how bad could it get? So you need to start off pretty strong to open the year. And I see 4 winnable games, so you need to find a way to at least win 3 of them to open the season. Next up, 4 of the next 5 games are at home. Really important here. They got Kansas State, Kansas, at West Virginia, Cincinnati, Oklahoma. Super manageable. And I know Kansas State's good. Kansas is bringing it back. West Virginia on the road. West Virginia's not very good. Cincy, trying to figure out themselves in the new Big 12. And then Oklahoma, you have Bedlam there. This is a stretch that you can really, if you went out here, you're obviously in Big 12 title contention. But if you find a way to go 4-1 or 3-2, you're very much alive when it comes to November. And I think that is one of the most important things when you look at this schedule. You look at this stretch and you go, that's their toughest stretch? That's 5 games that seem relatively winnable during that stretch. I think they'll probably go 3-2 during it. But again, this is where it all comes down to the beginning of the year. If they start 2-2 and then enter this stretch and then collapse against Kansas State and then things start falling apart here, you could be limping to the finish. But based on what I see here and based on my evaluation of these teams and the fact that most of them are playing at Oklahoma State, that's a big deal. Final 3 games. And this is kind of, again, why if you look at Oklahoma State and you think, hey, this team's good enough to be, very talented. They've been able to reload at every position. They're going to be fine. If you really believe that, then their November sets up for them to have one heck of a finish in Big 12 play. They go to UCF, to Houston, and then they get BYU at home. The game at UCF is the one that stands out. That's probably the trickiest in my eyes. But Houston and BYU, I don't have massive expectations for either of them this year. And I consider all 3 of those very winnable. And so when I look through this entire schedule, I kind of see a bunch of games that are winnable. I don't see a single game on this schedule where I think there's no way they can win that game. Or I'm, 90% sure they're going to lose that game. I don't have any of those on this schedule, which really stands out to me. A couple weird things about this schedule, though. They don't play any of the legacy Texas teams, which is really weird. They don't play Texas. They don't play Baylor, Texas Tech, or TCU. Kind of a bummer. The only school in Texas that they play is Houston, and they do play on the road. So they do play a game in Texas. But missing those 4 schools is actually really helpful because I think all 4 of those schools are going to be pretty good in the Big 12 this year, and Oklahoma State gets to pass on all of them. They also play all 4 of the newcomers, which is actually very rare when you look at their schedule. They have Cincinnati and then UCF, Houston, and BYU all on their schedule, and they play 4 of those in their final 5 games of the year. So once again, if those schools don't adjust to the Big 12, well, year 1, then Oklahoma State should be able to finish on a tear to finish the season. if this team was kind of what they were at the beginning of last year, if they had all those pieces back, Spencer Sanders, all the receivers, a defense that I felt more comfortable with, I mean, based on, kind of way too early predictions, this would be a team that I feel like could win the Big 12 and might be a favorite to win the Big 12. But based on what we know about their roster, I don't think they can get there. But I do believe this is a bowl team based pretty much solely on their schedule, because we don't know what they're going to look like actually on the field due to how many losses they have. But I think Oklahoma State fans should be very confident in the schedule that they've been given. I think the Oklahoma State players, I think Mike Gundy should feel comfortable with kind of how it lays out, the road to home games, the end of the season run. It should give that fan base a whole lot of optimism going into the 2023 season, even with the really, really rough offseason they just got through. So again, I'll be back later this week, talk about a few more of the schedules in the Big 12. So stay tuned, but thanks for listening today to Crystal Ball College Football.